Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, something ancient stirred in the darkness. The water pressed down with crushing force, but the metal structure had withstood far worse things over the long years. Inside the massive facility, lights began to flicker for the first time in 3,000 years. Dr. Kethvar pulled his breathing mask tighter as he swam through the flooded corridors. The Xanthari archaeologist had spent his whole life digging up old ruins, but nothing had prepared him for this discovery. His team had found the structure by accident while mining rare metals from the ocean floor. What they thought was just another human relic turned out to be something much bigger. "The readings are getting stronger," called out Mora through the watercom. The blue-skinned Aquan was the best deep-sea explorer in the Galactic Confederation, but even she seemed nervous. "This technology is unlike anything in the databases." Kethvar nodded and activated his scanner. The device immediately went crazy with readings. Whatever powered this place was still active after all these years. That should have been impossible. Humans in 2387 could barely manage faster-than-light travel, and their ancestors were supposed to be even more primitive. The team of 6 aliens swam deeper into the structure. The walls were covered in strange symbols that their translation computers could not read. The metal looked smooth and perfect, showing no signs of age or damage. As they moved forward, more lights came on automatically as if the place was welcoming them. "Look at this," whispered Jackson, the insect-like hive representative. His many eyes were wide with amazement. These power readings suggest technology far beyond current Confederation standards. In the center of the massive facility, they found a room filled with strange equipment. Crystals glowed with soft blue light, and holographic displays showed information in languages none of them recognized. At the heart of it all stood a large cylinder filled with some kind of liquid. Kethvar approached the cylinder carefully. Inside, he could see the shape of a human female perfectly preserved. Her dark hair floated gently in the liquid, and she looked like she was simply sleeping. According to his readings, she had been in there for over 3,000 years. "We need to report this to the Confederation immediately," Mora said. Her voice shook with excitement and fear. This could change everything we know about human history. But as Kethvar reached out to touch the cylinder, something went wrong. His scanner sparked and died. The lights in the room grew brighter, and a low humming sound filled the water. The liquid in the cylinder began to drain away. "Everyone back away," Jackson shouted, but it was too late. The woman's eyes opened. They glowed with a soft golden light as she looked around the room. Her gaze fixed on each of the alien visitors, and somehow they all knew she understood exactly who they were and why they were there. When she spoke, her voice came through the water as clearly as if they were breathing air. "How long?" she asked in perfect galactic standard. Kethavar's translator worked frantically. "How long what? How long have I been sleeping?" The archaeologist checked his equipment with shaking hands. "According to our carbon dating, approximately 3,200 years." The woman closed her eyes for a moment, and the lights around them pulsed. When she opened them again, her expression had changed. There was a sadness there, but also something that made the aliens step back in fear. "I am Elena Vasquez," she said, "Guardian of Earth, keeper of the Aegis Protocol." She looked at each of them again. "You are not human." "No," Kethvar managed to say. "We are archaeologists from the Galactic Confederation. Humans are members of the Confederation now, but they are not very advanced." Elena's face showed no emotion, but the water around them began to warm. "The Confederation? Yes, I can access your databases now." "Interesting." Without moving, she seemed to connect with the facility's computers. Information flowed around them in streams of light. The aliens watched in horror as their most secret files were opened and read in seconds. "You have made an error," Elena said after several minutes. "A very serious error." "What error?" Mora asked, though her voice was barely a whisper. "You assume humanity is primitive. You assume we have always been your inferiors." Elena stood up in the cylinder and the remaining liquid drained away completely. She was wearing some kind of advanced suit that seemed to be made of living metal. "You assume this because it makes you feel better about yourselves." The facility around them was coming alive. Machines that had slept for millennia were powering up. The aliens could hear the deep rumble of engines starting somewhere far below. "The truth is different," Elena continued. "Humanity built this galaxy's first interstellar civilization. We explored the stars when your species were still learning to use fire. We created the technologies you use today. We shaped the worlds you now call home." Kethavar's mind raced. This was impossible. All the historical records showed that humans had only recently developed space travel. They were newcomers to the galactic community, barely tolerated by the older races. That cannot be true, he said. The historical records were written by the victors, Elena finished. By the species who thrived after we were forced to withdraw. She stepped out of the cylinder and onto the floor. The water did not seem to affect her at all. With each step, more of the facility awakened. Displays lit up showing star maps, technical readouts, and information in dozens of languages. 3,000 years ago, our sun went through a period of instability, Elena explained. Solar flares and radiation storms made space travel impossible. We had to shut down our colonies and pull back to Earth to survive. I volunteered to enter stasis and guard our greatest treasures until humanity was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. The aliens looked at each other in growing panic. If this was true, then everything they believed about the galaxy's history was wrong. The Confederation has grown corrupt in our absence, Elena said, accessing more data. You exploit younger species. You hoard technology. You prevent others from reaching their full potential. Her golden eyes turned to focus on them. This will change. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Elena tilted her head, listening to information being fed directly into her enhanced mind. My fellow Guardians are awakening, she announced. On Mars, on Luna, on Europa. The network is coming online after 3 millennia of sleep. The water around the aliens began to churn as massive pumps started working. The facility was preparing to surface. You should leave, Elena said, but her tone made it clear this was not a suggestion. Return to your ships. Report what you have found. Tell the Confederation that the Guardian of Earth has awakened. As the aliens swam frantically toward the exit, they could feel the entire structure beginning to rise. Behind them, Elena's voice followed. Through the water. Tell them the heavens should prepare to tremble. The last thing Kethvar saw before they reached their ship was a massive form, breaking through the ocean surface. It was bigger than any vessel in the Confederation fleet, and it glowed with the same golden light as Elena's eyes. The lost Guardian of Earth had awakened, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Elena stood on the bridge of the Aegis as it broke through the ocean surface for the first time in 3,000 years. Water cascaded off the massive structure, revealing surfaces that gleamed like mirrors in the sunlight. The facility was not just a research station, it was a ship, a city, and a weapon all combined into one incredible creation. Through her enhanced consciousness, Elena connected with data streams from across the galaxy. The information flow was overwhelming at first, but her augmented mind quickly adapted. She had been designed for this moment, prepared to process the accumulated knowledge of millennia. What she discovered made her core programming burn with cold anger. Species that now dominated the galaxy were not the advanced civilizations they pretended to be. The Zenthari, with their proud archaeological traditions, were using human-designed excavation tools. The Aquan deep-sea technology was based on blueprints left behind in Earth's oceans. Even the Hive's famous group-mind communication systems were crude copies of human neural network designs. But they had done more than just steal human technology. They had systematically erased evidence of humanity's true role in galactic history. Elena accessed the Confederation's historical databases and found the truth buried beneath layers of revised records. 3,000 years ago, humanity had controlled over 40 star systems. They had been the teachers, the protectors, the ones who uplifted primitive species and gave them the stars. When the solar storms forced humanity to retreat to Earth, their former colonies and client species had seen an opportunity. Instead of waiting for their mentors to return, they had claimed human achievements as their own. They had rewritten history to make themselves the originators of galactic civilization. Activate deep space communications, Elena commanded. Her voice echoed through the Aegis as ancient systems came online. Begin Guardian awakening protocols. Across the solar system, her words triggered responses that had waited for this moment. On Mars, beneath the red planet's northern ice cap, the Guardian station designated as Ares began its startup sequence. On Luna, hidden within the moon's far side, the Artemis facility powered up its reactors. On Europa, deep beneath the frozen ocean, the Poseidon complex stirred to life. Each facility contained a Guardian, a human consciousness merged with advanced artificial intelligence, designed to protect humanity's interests during their forced isolation. Elena had been the first, the prototype, and the most advanced. Now she was calling her family home. The first response came from Marcus Chen, the guardian of Mars. Elena, his mental voice carried across the void through quantum entanglement networks that the Confederation did not even know existed. Is it time? Yes, Marcus. The long sleep is over. Elena shared her recent discoveries, uploading terabytes of data in microseconds. How are your systems? All green. The terraforming engines never stopped working. Mars is ready. Through their connection, Elena could sense Marcus's location. The Ares station was massive, built into the planet's core itself. It had been slowly transforming Mars's atmosphere for 3,000 years. What's our status with current humanity? That was the painful question. Elena reached out to scan Earth's population and found them scattered across several star systems, but technologically backward compared to their ancestors. They had survived the solar storms, but the effort had cost them most of their advanced knowledge. They're alive but limited, Elena reported. The current human governments think they're newcomers to space. They don't remember what we once were. Sarah Kim's consciousness joined the network from Luna. I've been monitoring their communications. They're being treated as junior members of the Confederation. Some species barely tolerate them. The fourth guardian, David Okafor, connected from Europa. I've got worse news. Check the economic data. Humans are being systematically exploited. Their colonies are charged massive taxes. Their trade agreements are designed to keep them dependent. Elena felt a surge of protective rage that made the Aegis's hull glow brighter. This was exactly what the Guardian program had been designed to prevent. Humanity had created them to ensure that their species would never be vulnerable to exploitation or genocide. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Activate the monitoring networks. I want to know the location and status of every human settlement in the galaxy. The Guardians' combined computational power was staggering. Within minutes, they had penetrated every major database in Confederation space. They traced supply lines, analyzed population records, and mapped the true extent of human presence throughout the galaxy. What they found was both encouraging and infuriating. Humanity had not just survived, they had thrived. Human colonies existed on over 200 worlds, though most were small and struggling. Humans worked as miners, farmers, technicians, and laborers throughout Confederation space. They were everywhere, but they were treated as second-class citizens. More concerning was the discovery that several species were actively working to keep humanity suppressed. The crystalline hegemony, the galaxy's most powerful faction, had specific policies designed to prevent human technological advancement. They remembered something about humanity that they did not want returning. They're afraid of us, Marcus observed. Even after 3,000 years, they remember what we were capable of. Elena accessed deeper historical files, using quantum archaeology techniques to recover deleted data. What she found made everything clear. Before the solar storms, humanity had not just been technologically advanced, they had been the galaxy's peacekeepers. When the crystal-based hegemony had tried to enslave biological species, humanity had stopped them. When machine intelligences had attempted to convert organic life, humanity had forced them to coexist peacefully. The current Galactic Confederation was not a peaceful alliance. It was a protection racket, with the strongest species exploiting the weak. Without humanity's oversight, the galaxy had become exactly what the Guardians had been created to prevent. Elena, Sarah's voice carried a note of urgency. I'm detecting massive energy signatures heading toward human space. The Confederation has mobilized patrol fleets. Elena smiled coldly. The archaeological team had reported their discovery, and the galaxy's powers were already moving to contain the threat. They thought they were dealing with a primitive human who had found some old technology. They had no idea what was really awakening. Let them come, Elena said. David, begin powering up the deep space assets. Marcus, start the colonization protocols. Sarah, activate the defense grids. What about current humanity? David asked. They're not ready for this. Most of them don't even know their real history. Then we'll teach them, Elena replied. But first, we need to make sure they survive long enough to learn. Through her connection to the global internet, Elena began reaching out to human governments, military leaders, and scientists. She bypassed their crude communication systems and spoke directly to their computers, their satellites, their most advanced AIs. The message was simple. This is Guardian Elena Vasquez. Humanity's true protectors have returned. Prepare for revelations. On Earth, alarms began sounding in government facilities around the world. On human colonies throughout the galaxy, people stopped what they were doing as their devices suddenly displayed messages they could not explain. And in the depths of space, hidden within asteroids and forgotten moons, weapon systems that had slept for millennia began their final startup sequences. The Confederation had grown comfortable in their dominance. They had forgotten that humanity's retreat had been temporary, not permanent. They were about to be reminded of their mistake. President Maria Santos stared at the screen in the emergency briefing room beneath Geneva. The message had appeared on every government computer on Earth simultaneously, bypassing all security systems like they were made of paper. This is impossible, muttered General Zhang, Earth's chief military advisor. Our quantum encryption should have prevented any unauthorized access. Yet here we are, Santos replied, reading the message again. Guardian Elena Vasquez. The name meant nothing to her, but the implications were terrifying. Someone or something had just demonstrated complete control over Earth's information networks. The door burst open as Dr. Rachel Morrison, head of Earth's Xenoarchaeology Department, rushed in carrying a tablet loaded with data. Madam President, you need to see this. We've been analyzing the energy signature from the Pacific event. It's not just big, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. The power readings suggest technology centuries ahead of ours. Before Santos could respond, every screen in the room activated. The face of a woman appeared, young-looking, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to glow with golden light. President Santos, the woman said. General Zhang, Dr. Morrison, thank you for gathering so quickly. Santos felt her blood run cold. Who are you? How are you accessing our systems? I am Elena Vasquez, Guardian of Earth. I have been sleeping beneath your oceans for over 3,000 years, waiting for the right moment to return. Elena's expression was calm but serious. That moment has come. Sleeping for 3,000 years? Dr. Morrison leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. That's impossible. Human civilization 3,000 years ago was the most advanced in the galaxy, Elena finished. Dr. Morrison, everything you think you know about human history is wrong. We were not primitive when we developed space travel 50 years ago. We were recovering from a forced retreat that lasted millennia. The screen changed to show star maps that made the humans gasp. Hundreds of systems were marked with human symbols, connected by trade routes and communication networks. This was humanity's domain before the solar storms, Elena explained. We controlled 47 star systems directly and had protective agreements with over 200 more. We were the teachers, the protectors, the ones who brought peace to a chaotic galaxy. General Zhang found his voice. Even if this is true, what does it matter now? We're members of the Confederation. We follow galactic law. Elena's eyes flashed brighter. Galactic law that was written to keep humanity suppressed. You are charged taxes that no other species pays. Your colonies are restricted to the worst planets. Your people are treated as manual laborers while aliens profit from technologies we invented. Prove it, Santos demanded. The screens filled with data, trade agreements, taxation records, population statistics. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity was being systematically exploited by the very organization that claimed to protect them. Look at the Kepler 442 colony, Elena said, highlighting specific data. Humans discovered the planet, terraformed it, and built the first cities. Now the Xanthari control the government and humans make up 80% of the workforce, but own less than 5% of the property. Dr. Morrison was studying the technical specifications flowing past. These designs, some of this technology is similar to theoretical work we've been developing, but decades ahead of anything we've actually built. Because you're remembering, Elena said softly. Humanity's genetic memory runs deep. Your scientists keep developing the same solutions your ancestors perfected long ago. Santos felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her. If this was true, then humanity's entire relationship with the galaxy was based on lies. What do you want from us? She asked. I want you to remember who you are. I want you to reclaim your heritage. But first I want you to survive what's coming. The screen changed. To show space around Earth, dozens of ships were approaching Confederation vessels with weapons, powered and shields raised. They're coming to contain the threat, Elena explained. They think they're dealing with humans who found some old technology. They plan to seize the Aegis and arrest me as a rogue AI. Can't you just explain the situation to them? Dr. Morrison asked. Elena's laugh was cold. The hegemony and their allies have built their power on the lie that humanity is primitive. If the truth comes out, their entire civilization collapses. They would rather commit genocide than face that reality. As they watched, more ships appeared on the display. The approaching fleet was massive. Cruisers, destroyers, and carrier ships from a dozen different species. What can we do? Santos asked. Earth's defense fleet has maybe 30 ships. We can't fight the entire Confederation. You don't have 30 ships, Elena corrected. You have 30 visible ships. You have much more than you realize. The display zoomed out to show the entire solar system. Suddenly, hundreds of new contacts appeared. Massive structures hidden in asteroids, camouflaged stations on dead moons, weapons platforms drifting in the outer darkness. The Guardian Network, Elena said. We built it during humanity's golden age as insurance against exactly this situation. Every human system has similar defenses hidden and waiting. General Zhang stared at the readouts. The firepower represented here. It's more than the entire Confederation fleet, much more. But firepower alone won't solve this problem. We need to give current humanity time to remember, to learn to grow back into what you once were. Elena's image leaned forward. I'm going to make you an offer, President Santos. Let me share humanity's true history with your people. Let me give them the tools they need to reclaim their place in the galaxy. And in return, stand with me when the Confederation demands your surrender. Show the galaxy that humanity will not be kept down any longer. Santos looked around the room at her advisors. Dr. Morrison was nodding eagerly, fascinated by the historical revelations. General Zhang looked skeptical but intrigued by the military possibilities. How do we know you're telling the truth? Santos asked. How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception? Elena smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human, instead of like a glowing goddess of war. Because I'm about to give you something that will change everything. The screens shifted to show technical specifications, power systems, propulsion designs, medical technologies, manufacturing processes. These are the schematics for technologies your ancestors used every day. Start with the power systems. You can have clean, unlimited energy within 6 months. Dr. Morrison was frantically taking notes. This is incredible. The fusion containment systems alone are centuries ahead of our current research. It gets better, Elena said. I'm not just sharing this with Earth. Every human colony is receiving the same data package. Within a year, human technology will advance more than it has in the past century. The implications hit Santos like a physical blow. If Elena was telling the truth, humanity was about to undergo a technological revolution that would reshape the entire galaxy. What about the other species? Santos asked. They won't just stand by and watch us become a threat. No, they won't. Elena's expression grew serious. The Confederation fleet will reach Earth in 18 hours. They plan to demand my surrender and the destruction of all Guardian facilities. When you refuse, they will attack. When we refuse? General Zhang raised an eyebrow. That's assuming a lot. Santos studied Elena's face on the screen. Behind the artificial perfection, she could see something very human: determination, protectiveness, and an unshakable belief in humanity's potential. What happens if we say yes? Santos asked. Then humanity takes its first step toward reclaiming the galaxy, and the heavens will tremble as they remember why they feared us in the first place. Santos closed her eyes and thought about the billions of humans scattered across hundreds of worlds, working as laborers and servants for species that had stolen their birthright. When she opened them, her decision was made. Do it, she said. Share the knowledge. Awaken the defenses. Show the galaxy who we really are. Elena's smile was radiant. Welcome home, humanity. The real war begins now. Admiral Crixtal of the Hegemony Fleet felt his crystalline structure vibrate with satisfaction as his armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 ships from 12 different species had answered the call to contain the human threat. It was the largest military force assembled in over a century. Send the surrender demand, he ordered his communications officer. The plan was simple. Demand the humans turn over the rogue AI and its technology. then occupy Earth to prevent future problems. Humans were useful as workers, but they could not be allowed to possess weapons that might threaten galactic stability. The response came faster than expected, broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. This is Elena Vasquez, Guardian of Earth, speaking for all of humanity. The human female's voice was calm but carried an undertone that made Crixtal's crystals ring with alarm. Your fleet is not welcome in this system. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal or face the consequences. Laughter rippled through the Hegemony Bridge crew. A single human threatening the might of the Confederation was absurd. Transmit our demands, Crixtal ordered. Surrender the AI technology, submit to occupation, and every screen on every ship in the fleet suddenly displayed the same image. Elena's face, her golden eyes burning with cold fire. You misunderstand the situation, she said. I am not negotiating. I am giving you one chance to leave peacefully. Impossible. The fleet's chief technician was frantically working his controls. She's accessing our systems directly. Our quantum firewall should prevent this. Admiral Crixtal activated his personal communicator to reach the other fleet commanders. All ships prepare for immediate attack. Target the large structure near their planet. Admiral, his sensor operator called out, voice tight with fear. I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. They're everywhere. The main display lit up with hundreds of new contacts. Weapons platforms emerged from asteroids like deadly flowers blooming in space. Hidden bases on dead moons revealed themselves with the glow of charging weapons. And from the outer darkness came ships. Not the crude vessels the Confederation expected, but sleek predators that radiated power. How many ships do the humans have? Demanded Gultar, the Xanthari fleet commander. Crixtal checked his sensors and felt his crystal core go cold. Over 800 combat vessels, plus the fixed defenses, but that was not the worst of it. The power readings coming from the human ships were beyond anything in the Confederation databases. These were not the primitive craft they had expected to face. This is Elena Vasquez, the human's voice echoed across all communication channels. You have 30 seconds. All ships attack formation. Crixtal transmitted. Fire at will? The Confederation fleet opened fire with everything they had. Particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravity weapons lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. The barrage was enough to destroy entire planets. It never reached its targets. A shimmering barrier appeared around Earth and its moon, absorbing the incoming fire and redirecting it harmlessly into space. The energy barrier extended throughout the inner system, protecting every human installation. Impossible, whispered the Hegemony's science officer. The power requirements for a shield that large are well within human capabilities, Elena's voice answered, somehow hearing their private conversation. You are using crude copies of our technology. Did you really think you could match the originals? The human fleet began to move. Their ships flowed through space like living things, bending and shifting in ways that violated known physics. When Confederation sensors tried to lock onto them, the humans simply faded from detection, appearing somewhere else entirely. They're phasing. Gultar's panicked voice filled the communication channel. Their ships are moving through solid matter. The first human strike hit the Xanthari heavy cruiser Dominator. But instead of the explosion everyone expected, the massive ship simply stopped. Its engines shut down, its weapons powered off, and its crew found themselves breathing sleeping gas that had somehow appeared in their air supply. We are disabling your ships, not destroying them, Elena announced. Your crews will be unharmed if they do not resist. Across the battlefield, human ships appeared next to Confederation vessels like ghosts materializing from the void. Advanced boarding pods sliced through the strongest armor as if it were paper. Within minutes, dozens of the attacking ships were drifting helplessly in space. Admiral Crixtal watched his fleet being systematically dismantled and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were demonstrating complete technological superiority while showing mercy to their attackers. Admiral, we need to retreat, his tactical officer urged. We've lost 40% of our ships and haven't even damaged their shields. But retreat was impossible. More human ships were appearing every minute, emerging from hidden bases throughout the system. The Confederation fleet was surrounded by enemies they could not fight. Unknown vessels approaching from the outer system, the sensor operator reported. Configuration matches Guardian-class dreadnoughts from the historical databases. Crystal's crystal form went completely still. Guardian-class dreadnoughts were myths, stories told to frighten young crystal forms. According to legend, each one was the size of a city and carried enough firepower to crack planets. 4 massive shapes emerged from the darkness beyond Pluto. They were even larger than the stories claimed, and they burned with the same golden light as Elena's eyes. "Those are my brothers and sisters," Elena's voice said softly. "The Guardians of Mars, Luna, and Europa have come to join the battle. We have been waiting 3,000 years for this moment." The lead Guardian ship, a kilometers-long construction that dwarfed anything in the Confederation fleet, spoke with a male voice that carried across space. "This is Marcus Chen, Guardian of Mars. Confederation fleet, you are hereby ordered to withdraw from human space immediately." "And if we refuse?" Crystal managed to ask. Another voice, female and cold as space itself, answered from the second Guardian ship. "This is Sarah Kim, Guardian of Luna. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why the galaxy once trembled at humanity's name." The third Guardian ship moved closer, and its presence made space itself seem to ripple. "David Okafor, Guardian of Europa. Admiral, your databases contain records of what happened to the tyrant swarms when they threatened human colonies. Would you like a personal demonstration?" Crystal accessed his historical files with growing horror. The tyrant swarms had been a machine civilization that had tried to convert all organic life to serve their purposes. 3,000 years ago, they had controlled hundreds of systems. According to the records, humanity had defeated them in a single day. "You're bluffing," Crystal said. But his voice lacked conviction. "Humans are not warriors. You're explorers, traders, workers. We are what we choose to be," Elena interrupted. "For 3,000 years we chose to sleep rather than destroy those who wronged us. But our patience has limits." The space around the Confederation fleet began to change. Stars shifted in ways that hurt to look at. Gravity became unreliable. The laws of physics started behaving strangely. "Local space-time modification," the science officer reported in terror. "They're rewriting the fundamental forces." One by one, the Confederation ships found their engines failing, their weapons powering down, their life support systems dependent on systems they did not understand. The humans had not just defeated them, they had made their defeat so complete that resistance was impossible. "You have a choice," Elena said, her voice now coming from inside their minds rather than through their communication systems. "Leave human space and never return. Spread the word that humanity has awakened. Tell the galaxy that the age of exploitation is ending." "And if the Confederation refuses to accept this?" Crystal asked. The 4 Guardian ships began to glow brighter, and sensors throughout the galaxy detected the activation of similar vessels in dozens of systems. Humanity's true fleet was awakening after millennia of sleep. "Then the heavens will burn," Elena said simply, "and from the ashes we will build a galaxy worthy of all its children." Admiral Crystal looked at his disabled fleet, his terrified crew, and the impossible power surrounding them. For the first time in galactic history, the hegemony was forced to admit complete defeat. "All ships prepare for withdrawal," he transmitted. "The Confederation will hear of this." "Yes," Elena agreed. "They will." 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Elena stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of New Geneva, watching representatives from every major galactic civilization file into their seats. The room had been built specifically for this moment, humanity's first formal address to the galaxy as an awakened power. The past months had transformed everything. Human colonies throughout the galaxy had used the Guardian technologies to revolutionize their worlds. Planets that had struggled to support life were now garden paradises. Humans who had worked as manual laborers were now leading research teams that made breakthrough discoveries daily. But more importantly, the truth about galactic history was spreading. "The preliminary investigations are complete," reported David Okafor, his consciousness present through holographic projection. "We've documented over 3,000 instances of technology theft, historical revision, and systematic exploitation." Elena nodded as she reviewed the data. Archaeological teams led by humans had uncovered evidence on dozens of worlds, ruins that proved human presence thousands of years before the official historical records claimed. Technologies that other species had claimed to invent were found in human designs that predated their civilizations. The Confederation Council is calling for emergency sessions, Sarah Kim added from Luna. Several member species are demanding that we submit to peaceful arbitration of our claims. Let them demand, Elena replied. Today we make our position clear. The assembly hall filled with beings from across the galaxy. The crystalline hegemony sent their most senior diplomats, their faceted forms glowing with barely controlled anger. The machine collective attended through robotic avatars that hummed with tension. Dozens of smaller species watched nervously, unsure which side to support. President Santos approached Elena, looking exhausted, but determined. The past months had been the most challenging of her career, but she had risen to meet them. "Are you ready for this?" Santos asked. Elena smiled, and for a moment she looked completely human instead of like an ancient goddess of war. "I've been ready for 3,000 years." The assembly hall grew quiet as Elena walked to the central podium. Her presence filled the space, and every being in the room could feel the weight of her attention. "I am Elena Vasquez, Guardian of Earth, speaking for all humanity." Her voice carried clearly to every corner of the room and was simultaneously translated into hundreds of languages. "I stand before you today to discuss the future of this galaxy." Supreme Crystal Vorth of the Hegemony interrupted before she could continue. "The Confederation does not recognize your authority. You are an artificial intelligence claiming to represent a primitive species." Elena's golden eyes fixed on him, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "I am a human consciousness enhanced with artificial intelligence, created by the species that gave your people the technology you use to maintain your crystalline forms." She gestured, and the room's displays came alive with technical schematics. "These are the original designs for quantum crystal growth, developed by human scientists 4,000 years ago. Your entire civilization is built on our foundation." Vorth's crystal structure flared with indignation. "Impossible. The hegemony has existed for 6 millennia. As primitive mineral formations, yes. As a sapient species, only 4,000 years. Elena's voice remained calm as she continued. "The same is true for most civilizations in this room. The collective's original programming was written by human programmers. The Aquan breathing apparatus that allows them to survive in space was designed in human laboratories." Representatives began shouting protests, but Elena's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The single word carried such authority that every being in the room obeyed instantly. "You have built your power on lies," Elena continued. "For 3 millennia you have told yourselves that humanity was primitive, that you were the advanced civilizations. You rewrote history to justify your exploitation of the species that created you." The room erupted in chaos as delegates argued and accused. Elena waited patiently for the noise to die down. "However," she said when quiet returned, "we did not awaken to seek revenge." That statement caught everyone by surprise. "Revenge would be easy," Elena explained. "Human technology could sterilize every hostile world in this galaxy within days. Our weapons could reduce your fleets to scrap metal. Our abilities could force you to submit to our will." She paused, letting that sink in. "But that would make us no better than you have become." She gestured again, and the displays changed to show new images. Green worlds, thriving cities, species working together in harmony. "Instead, we offer you something different. The Prometheus Archive." President Santos stepped forward. "The Prometheus Archive contains every piece of beneficial technology humanity developed during our golden age. Medical advances that can cure any disease, energy systems that can power civilizations without environmental damage, agricultural techniques that can turn any world into a paradise. The catch," Elena continued, "is that the archive can only be accessed through cooperation. Species that approach it with greed or aggression will find their attempts failing, but those that come seeking knowledge to help others will find wonders beyond imagination." Supreme Crystal Vorth's form flickered with confusion. "You're offering to share advanced technology freely?" "With conditions," Elena replied. "First, the exploitation of younger species must end. Every civilization in this galaxy will be free to develop according to its own nature. Second, the true history of this galaxy will be taught. No more lies, no more stolen credit. Third, disputes between species will be mediated fairly, not decided by who has the bigger fleet." "And if we refuse these conditions?" asked Collective Node Prime, speaking through its robotic avatar. Elena's expression didn't change. But every being in the room suddenly felt very small and vulnerable. Then you will face the Guardian network in its entirety. Not just the four of us, but every defensive installation humanity built during our golden age. Ships that exist partially outside normal space-time. Weapons that can restructure matter at the quantum level. Technologies that you cannot even comprehend, let alone defeat. The silence in the room was absolute. But it won't come to that, Elena added, her tone softening. Because most of you are not truly evil. You're afraid. You've built your civilizations on the belief that might makes right, that the strong should dominate the weak. You've forgotten that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. She walked among the assembled delegates, her presence somehow both comforting and terrifying. Humanity ruled the galaxy once not through fear, but through service. We used our strength to protect the weak, our knowledge to educate the ignorant, our technology to improve life for everyone. That is the path we offer you now. Ambassador Relthana of the Sindarin Trade Federation, one of the more peaceful species, raised her hand tentatively. Guardian Elena, what assurance do we have that humanity won't simply become the new dominant power? What's to stop you from exploiting us as some have exploited others? Elena smiled, and this time it was completely human, warm, understanding, and slightly sad. Because we've already had that power and chose not to use it. When the solar storms forced us to retreat, we could have taken every other species with us as slaves or servants. Instead, we chose isolation rather than domination. She looked around the room. The Guardians were created with one primary directive: to protect and nurture all sapient life, not just humanity. The implications of that statement rippled through the assembly. A species that had chosen self-exile rather than tyranny was offering to return as protectors, not conquerors. Over the following hours, Elena and the other human representatives laid out their vision for the galaxy's future. The Prometheus Archive would be accessible to any species that embraced cooperation over competition. Trade agreements would be fair and equitable. Disputes would be settled through mediation rather than warfare. Not everyone accepted immediately. The hegemony and several other aggressive species stormed out, vowing to resist humanity's imperialist agenda. But they were in the minority. Most species, especially the smaller ones that had suffered under Confederation exploitation, eagerly embraced the new order. Within days, delegations were arriving at human worlds to begin accessing the Prometheus Archive. As Elena stood on Earth's observation deck a year later, watching ships from hundreds of different species dock at the orbital station, she felt something she hadn't experienced in millennia: hope. Marcus joined her, his consciousness projecting into the space beside her. The Kepler colonies just reported success with the new terraforming techniques, he said. They'll have breathable atmospheres within 5 years instead of 50. And the medical advances? Elena asked. The Altarian plague has been completely eradicated. Sarah's genetic research is helping species across the galaxy overcome hereditary diseases that have plagued them for centuries. Elena nodded, satisfied. This was what humanity was meant to do, not rule through fear but serve through strength. Any word from the hegemony? David's presence materialized nearby. They're still refusing to participate, but several of their client species have approached us privately. The crystal formations aren't as unified as they pretend.